Welcome to the Big Picture Film Club. My guest today is Professor, actress, and filmmaker Kelly Galindo. Her documentary series and upcoming feature, 26 Seconds, looks at the global pandemic of child sex trafficking. And I think it's important to stress the word pandemic because it truly is. Kelly, thank you very much for your time today. How are you?
Oh, I'm very good. Thank you so much, Presh, for having me on.
I suppose it's quite a heavy topic to talk about, and so first, in terms of yourself getting into acting and filmmaking, sort of what's your background before we sort of dive into 26 seconds?
Yeah, well, when I was younger, I was in the entertainment industry as an artist. I was a dancer and then choreographer and actress, um, and that was my journey. And then at some point, I didn't make it big enough because at 38 I was like, okay, I'm getting to be 40. So I went back to school and got my master's degree, and then I was very lucky because I graduated in August, and I got my job at Chapman University, Dodge College of Film and Media Arts, in January, like 6 months after I graduated, and I've been
Nice.
there for 18 years now. So and Chapman has become a really great film school. It kept growing and going up and up and up, and um, so anyways, and from being so at Chapman, I teach quite a few courses, but one is the actor director workshop. So I
Okay.
teach directors how to work with actors. I teach directing one. I've taught screen acting, visual storytelling. So I've taught a lot of classes. But my heart, is with actors. I was an actor, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a passion of mine to teach directors how to work with actors, because there's a I don't want to get into this because it has nothing to do with child sex trafficking, but there's just a gap in students come out of film schools. They know how to edit and light and special effects, but they don't really know how to work with the actor, and that's an issue. That is the relationship if you want a great film. But from my time at Dodge, in 2016, I started this project, 26 Seconds. At
Yeah.
first, I had seen something on Dateline about how there was basically pedophiles were able to fly to Thailand and Cambodia and molest children. And I
Yeah.
was like horrified. I said, we have got to create more awareness about this so that possibly and it's a lot of Americans, Australians, and Europeans that go to
Yeah.
Thailand, right? And I said, there's got to be a way that when they land in the plane, if it's not for business, put them in jail, or like, this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
So of
Yeah.
course it always starts with creating awareness, and that's the joy of being an artist and filmmaker, is to be able to, especially a documentarian, so that you can focus on issues that matter. So it started out as being a short documentary on sex tourism in Thailand and Cambodia,
Yeah.
which I did. I came home, I edited the short. It did really well. It won like 20 awards, which, to my surprise, because as you said, it's a heavy topic, right?
Hmm.
But through my experience in filming, I realized that it was a global issue. And then the organizations that I partnered with, the nonprofit organizations that allowed me to go on their rescue missions, I felt safe because I was with their rescue agents. I was able to film undercover. They set up the interviews because of the survivors that are in their care in their restoration homes. So I've partnered with over 40 nonprofit organizations worldwide.
Wow.
So because of that, I was able to have access to filming. And I also felt pretty safe, except for when I filmed in Iraq, because ISIS was there during that time. So that's a whole nother thing. Um, and that's also a whole nother thing about trafficking, because it's not like in Iraq, how it is in the US or in any other country. I mean, that was specifically due to war, which I'm
Hmm.
very concerned about, because that really is what's probably going to come to pass, unfortunately, in Afghanistan and also in Ukraine. I mean, when you have war like that, the children and women are going to be trafficked.
Um,
So,
so, oh, sorry to cut you off.
no, no, go ahead.
But you touched on something that was kind of very interesting in sort of mentioning. Well, I was looking at the sort of the countries that you've filmed in, and the geographical spread is crazy. Like, so from Mexico to the States, Thailand, Cambodia, India, Iraq, East Africa, East African countries, and so, you know, had you noticed particular geographical trends in your throughout your time documenting this, or?
Well, what I have learned, I mean, it's really unfortunate, but it really is in every country, every state, every city, online, rampant. And you were right, it's a pandemic. And, you know, they say that the statistics are every 20, which is the title of my film, every 26 seconds, a child's trafficked globally. They say it's a $150 billion a year industry. 1.2 million children are trafficked every year. Well, those aren't the statistics online, or there's a lot of underground cities where they traffic children. We don't know those numbers.
Hmm.
It might be every 1 second. I have no idea. We don't know what the real numbers are. As you know, the internet is blown up and it's right.
Yeah.
So we don't know those numbers. But to answer your question, in the countries like that, you know, that are culturally and have a lot of poverty, you know, like India and Cambodia, it's really awful. And Thailand, you know, it's really awful because, you know, it's shocking, but even their own parents will sell the children, you know, so they can survive. So this is an issue that has to go back way before a child's trafficked. It's about helping families be able to survive.
Right.
Because when I spoke to some of these parents, you know, they really don't think they're doing anything wrong. They're just trying to survive. Now, for us, it's like, you know, it's shocking, right?
Yeah.
So in those countries, it's about poverty. And so my film really I wanted to show the similarities of sex trafficking, and the similarities is it's all about money. Somebody's making money off the vulnerability of children and women.
Yeah.
Period. Right. So those are the similarities. And also the similarities of spiritually, there's a problem worldwide, right?
Yeah.
Or people wouldn't be using and buying children for sex.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a spiritual decline. So those are the similarities. The differences are, you know, like I said, in Iraq, that's due to war, and that would be the same. That's going to unfortunately come to pass in Afghanistan and Ukraine. So that's war. You know, ISIS, it was genocide. They went in and killed all the men. They kept the children, the boys, for ISIS fighters, and the little girls as sex slaves, and the older women as labor slaves. So that's a whole nother deal. But they did traffic them amongst each other. They sold them amongst each other. So, or even tried to sell them back to their families. And, you know, it was all, again, it's all about money. That's the similarity in every country, right?
Right.
But there are differences. And here in the US, we have it, I don't know how it is in other countries, but our social care system is broken. It's not perfect. I know that, you know, they want to try to protect children, but a lot of children are taken from homes where they've been molested.
Yeah.
And then that's running rampant in the social care system in foster homes. And that, not all of them, but one is too many. And you know, and it also, in the States, it's when they get pushed, when they turn 18, when they get pushed out of the social care system, they have no money, no family, no job. Pimps and traffickers, specifically, they send these young boys, 19, 20, going to befriend these girls. These girls, they have no family. They want to belong. They have no way to survive. So they are brought in like as a family. So these pimps and traffickers pretend to be boyfriends for about 2 to 4 weeks. And then they take their passports away. They push them out on the streets. They take their phone away, and they're working. And they're making a pimp. Each girl can make a pimp 2 to 500,000 a year. So even just these little gangbanger boys are not even like big traffickers. They'll have 2 or 3 girls running them, making good money. This is awful.
So in in these different regions, is it kind of people being trafficked outside the country, or just generally just it happening internally, or some mix of both?
A mix of both. It
Yeah.
used to be more about other countries, traffickers bringing children from other countries to like Americans to other countries, or
Yeah.
other countries bringing them to America, but not so much anymore. And the reason being, one of the organizations that I partnered with, I don't know if you saw the video, it's called Airline Ambassadors, and the title of the film is Human Trafficking in the Air. I don't know if you saw that, but that organization is incredible. She was a flight attendant and she saw the need. She created this organization, Airline Ambassadors, and then she trained other flight attendants, and then it grew. Then it was to the on ground personnel, in the airline industry, and then pilots, and so they've all come together. So what that means is, if somebody's trafficking a child from one country to another, or one state to another, because you can, crossing state lines is a big no-no. So the flight attendant is the one that's closest to this child, so they can look at them and see if they feel uncomfortable, or if they don't look like these people, or
Yeah.
our intuition, right? And they don't have to say a word to the trafficker or to the person that they think something is wrong. All they have to do is phone it in, and when the plane lands, it becomes a federal investigation and problem if that person is trafficking children. So I think the traffickers are they don't need to do that now. They can find girls in their own city, their own state, online. So they're not going to put themselves in danger. There was this filmmaker, incredible film. He's out of Denmark. What is it? I think it's called The Devil's Eyes. And this filmmaker interviewed a trafficker. This particular, he was blacked out completely, but you could hear it. This trafficker dealt with high-end echelon of men that want to have sex with babies, which kills them. It tears their organs, it rips their little ribs, they die. Then they send in a team to take their organs, and then they sell the organs. So it's this whole machine of making money off of children and babies. This is sick. This is sick. But what I wanted to share with you about this film is that trafficker, by the way, when this film was released, this trafficker was killed. He's no longer with us because he shared too much. It's like an organization, like, crazy, right? Anyhow, but he did share that, because the filmmaker asked the question. He said, do you traffic, do you abduct children? And he goes, that's our last resort. That's only like if there's a buyer for an organ and we don't have it. And so and he goes, but it's our last resort because it's easier to get caught, right? So what they do is they find these little girls, like being pushed out of the social care system, like no money, no family, and tell these girls, if you have a baby, we'll give you money, and we'll house you. Well, these are young girls, so they do it, but they're handing over a baby to be into this life where they're killed. It's really, it goes, I didn't even know about this, Presh, when I first started this project. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna, I was like in the kiddie pond, thinking, I was with these organizations where they're trying to help they rescue them and they restore them. But as I've been in this project, it goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's all in the higher echelon.
Yeah.
Politicians,
wow.
It's really sick.
Yeah.
Beyond words.
And how, so you've been sort of kind of working on this docuseries for a few years, and you're having to sort of sit with this content and replaying people's emotions, feelings. How have you, if you don't mind, like on a personal level, sort of dealt with that and kind of maintained your own sort of well-being?
I think, I'm sorry, this phone's ringing. I think that when I was filming, I remember, let me turn this off.
All right.
Wait, okay, my mom got it. Great. I think that when I was filming, I was, I really felt like on a high. And I think because I really felt God's, because I partnered with God. I said, okay, I'm going to pay for production, and I'm just going to take a leap of faith. I'm going to take a step, and it's your project. You open the doors you want open. And God kept opening door after door after door after door. Like again, I was planning to just do a short doc
Hmm.
on sex tourism in Thailand, Cambodia, and then that organization would introduce me to another, and I'd be going to another country and another country. So it took me a while to film because I teach. I'm a professor, so I would film in the summer and the winter breaks,
Yeah.
right? So it took me a few years to and I just kept going until it stopped. Until okay, I guess this is all the countries God wanted in there. He didn't pick London. He didn't pick Europe. So that's a good sign for you.
Mhm.
um, so so I was a little bit of on a high, and then the short did so well, that um I didn't feel the heaviness until after the pandemic. But maybe that's also just because of the pandemic. I think
Yeah.
we're all a little PTSD, from the whole few past couple years. But during that time, obviously everyone's life came to a halt. So my thank God I had finished filming prior to the pandemic. Thank God I had um, with my interpreters had interpreted all the interviews and strung all the interviews together. That
Hmm.
was all done right prior to the pandemic. So during the pandemic, I was all of the film festivals for the short were coming in.
Yeah.
So although they were all online, most of the film festivals, but anyways, but all of that was coming in, and then I was editing those videos, which I'm sharing, doing as a mini doc series that you have on your platform, Connect. Uh, but I decided I didn't want to just do nothing, so I wanted to raise awareness. I wanted to market 26 seconds, and I wanted to highlight these nonprofits like Airline Ambassadors, like I shared with you,
Yeah.
that are doing incredible work, because all of the footage isn't going to fit in my feature. I mean,
Yeah.
I have 9 countries, but I'm going to do East Africa as one. But so I have 7 countries to put into a 2-hour feature. That means each country's only getting 15 minutes. I have 15 videos right now on YouTube that are each 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Um, so I don't know if it was the right thing to do. I think in retrospect, okay, maybe I could have better spent my time editing the feature, which I'm doing now. But um, I don't know. I think I didn't know what to do. And I think it's okay that I did it. I think that it's important. I don't think people realize that it's really here in the US. They know, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, India, oh, Thailand, but they have no. And so all of that mini doc series is all sex trafficking here in the US. And there's
Mm.
also incredible organizations. There's another organization called Saved in America. It's ex-Navy SEALs so they come home, they have all these skills, and they don't know what to do with them. Well, they can volunteer their time with Saved in America, and this group, they're all ex-Navy SEALs, and they rescue a runaway teens. They try to rescue them prior, like if their parents call them, and they do it all for free for these parents. If their parents call them, because if you can rescue a child within 2 weeks, you can save them from being trafficked. So that's their
Right.
goal. Now, obviously, sometimes they rescue children that have already been trafficked, but at least maybe only a month instead of years,
Yeah.
where it's irreversible, the damage, right? And so that organization's great. What's another one? Oh, Albert and Deirdre Pujols. Albert Pujols is a baseball player. He used to be at the Angels, but now I don't know who he's with now. He's traded. But anyhow, they have an organization called Strike Out Slavery, where they create awareness at the baseball games. And then Deirdre, his wife, has another organization called Open Gate International, which is a culinary school where and she pays for it all, her and her husband. So survivors come to this culinary school. They not only uh, get trained as a culinary, but they job place them. This is incredible.
Nice.
Yeah, because they particularly believe. I mean, it's all important, right?
Hmm.
Prevention, rescue, restoration, reintegration. But they believe that if we can get it in prevention and then reintegrate them, you're that's just where they feel that the need was more, because there's lots of
Yeah.
organizations that rescue and restore. But it's a long road. It's a lifetime of
Yeah,
doing
I mean, it's I think what people, and myself included, quite don't realize is the scale of the issue. And
it.
when
Yeah,
you're talking about, every 26 seconds someone
yeah,
being trafficked,
yeah.
it's unimaginable, when
I mean, even I think, oh my God, my film's not going to put a dent in eradicating, human trafficking, sex trafficking. There's too much money
Hmm.
that's being made, and there's too many people in the higher echelons that are involved. But there's the starfish story. Do you know that story?
No,
Where
no.
there's all these starfish that come up, washed up off the beach, and the man with his little girl walking down the beach, um and she says, "Daddy, how?" Because there's thousands, right? She goes, and because he's throwing them back in the water, and she says, "How are we going to save all of them?" And he goes, "We can't, but the one that we save will be very happy."
Hmm.
Right? So we only can do what we can do, and
Right.
I do want to encourage people, just like we like Nancy. Now I'm forgetting her last name. Oh my dear. Anyways, but Nancy, who's the founder of Airline Ambassadors, she was an airline flight attendant, so she did what she could do in life.
Right.
Right? I'm a professor in film and a filmmaker. Well, then I'm doing what I can do. Albert and Deirdre Pullholes are doing what they can do. Like, we all have different gifts, talents, and resources. And if there's more of us than more of traffickers, then it's a possibility. I don't know
Right.
about my lifetime, but you know,
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah,
yeah.
I agree.
I don't
So
think I answered your question though, Press. You asked me, how am I dealing with this?
yeah, I wanted to get back to that because I think it's really, because when I spoken with actors, and they've kind of told me about how they just even sit with the character once they've
Yeah,
played them, right?
yeah,
And so I'm thinking, all right, if you kind of are on a mission to sort of uh, amplify the voices of these survivors, amplify the horrific nature of this industry. Um, and that has to sit with you
yeah.
somewhere.
Oh yeah. One of
Yeah,
the Well, okay, two things. Not one, every time you give a survivor a voice, that's a good thing, because it gives them back their power.
yeah,
So that's a good thing. Uh, but I do remember one of the founders of one of the organizations from East Africa. She asked me, she goes, "Kelly, what are you doing for you?" Exactly what you're asking, right? And I go,
yeah,
"What do you mean?" She goes, "I mean, like, are you in therapy?" And I went, "Why should I be?" And she goes, "Yeah, you're getting trauma transference."
yeah,
Because I interviewed about 10 survivors in each country and about 25 here in the States. She goes, every time you interview them, every time you're editing and seeing it, oh, it's trauma transference. And I go, oh, I didn't
yeah,
know. So to answer your question, I mean, again, I think it's all combined, even with the pandemic, though, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah,
like, a lot has happened, but I don't really know, other than I know that my belief in God, and then because that really I feel that this is God's project. It's what he wants me to do. I'm sure that he's what gives me strength. The only thing that I know, tangible and physical evidence, is that I've gained a lot of weight. Maybe maybe that's what's
okay,
happening.
that's fine.
I'm um yeah. It's but it's I also think that from my background as an actress, it taught, this. I mean, being in the film industry as an actor, when you go on audition after audition and rejection after rejection and 15-hour days and running, like, you just learn work ethic, and that
Hmm.
you put the project first, because you're going to have bad, your emotions are going to be all over the place. You're going to have bad days. But if you always put the project first, then it will get you to your beeline, so
Yeah,
I think I just have that training. Um, I didn't think this project was going to take this long. I think the pandemic had something to do with slowing it down, but I finally had to give it to God. I said, okay, all right.
Mhm.
This is taking longer than I thought. So another founder of one of the other organizations from Thailand, he told me, because it's a Christian organization, but he said, Kelly, just remember that God, if he wanted to fix this or do a film, he can do that.
Mm.
He uses our talents and our resources for to grow our character. So when I changed it to that mindset, then I went, oh yeah, I'm sure I do have some things to learn.
Yeah.
you know, so like personally, I haven't been married and I don't have children. My students are my children, right? But it's still different.
Mm.
Their parents pay for their education. I get to see them for 3 hours a week. It's completely different. So I think what God is doing is, there's no the way we learn patience is through having children and having a spouse, right?
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the ultimate of learning patience. So I think God gave me this project because you're not getting out of this life without learning patience. So I think that, as long as I know that it's about the journey, which every artist, it should be about that, right? It's never
Yeah.
about the destination. It's about the process. It's about the journey. So that's where I'm trying to stay.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
finally, how can we support you? Where do we need to direct our attention and energy at to watch the film or, support you in any way that we can?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everyone can check out the website. It's 26secondsdoc.com. You're going to put it in
We'll
your
have
link.
all the links that you need to
Okay,
in the
perfect.
description.
And then, of course, they can go to the 26 Seconds YouTube channel and see these videos from all these nonprofits that are doing great work. By the way, those are the mini doc series that we're trying to distribute through your platform.
Yes.
And then also, right now we have a virtual screening of the documentary short from sex tourism in Thailand and Cambodia. And also, I'll give you that link as well. But it's a virtual screening and fundraising event. So I'd be happy if people at least saw the video somewhere on one of the
Yes.
platforms. Yeah, because
Cool.
it really is about, once we know, there's that saying that, it's not the evil people that are the worst. It's the people that are indifferent that do nothing, right? And so
Yeah.
once we know, like if somebody watches a video and they become aware, you don't want to just watch it and then do nothing. You want to somehow get involved. Churches have human trafficking ministries. There's organizations in every city that you can look up and you can volunteer your time or your money or because what I do know is that the organizations, and not all organizations are great. There's some that are not great. But you got to do your research, right?
Yeah.
All the organizations in my documentary, I've done the research. But they are in the trenches every day. Like sometimes, and a filmmaker sometimes gets the accolades. Yes, it's a long journey in filming and editing and all of that. Yes. But I'm not in the trenches day in, day out, rescuing girls or restoring them. Right. I'm just documenting what the
Right.
survivors and these organizations and these HT experts and these, law enforcement and that are doing about it. Right. And so these organizations are all nonprofits. So they need help either with our time, resources, or money even.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think, that's the biggest thing, Krish. People always ask me, because there's lots of films on human trafficking and sex trafficking. And they said, what's the difference of your film and others? And I said, mine is really the only one that highlights the work that nonprofits are doing. And it's not focused on that. It's focused on the survivor story.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when they mention who rescued them, who restored them, who reintegrated them,
Yeah.
so I think that's important. And they're not PSAs. You've seen the videos. They're
Yeah.
not like PSAs for these organizations, but um, they're heroes. These
Yeah.
people are heroes.
Totally. I think, it's really important to sort of highlight the work that they do, because also it gives us hope
Yeah.
in that there's not only this sort of horrific act, but there is some sort of mechanism, some sort of solution that people are working towards, some initiative to help, you know, as you say, sort of restore, reintegrate, and, you know, help people kind of overcome this, something that's really horrific.
And every film, anyways, you know, what is it, what, who said that in a film? It's a famous line where there's got to be hope. You know, if there's not hope, especially something this heavy, I mean, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There's got to be hope.
I like to leave it on there. There's got to be
Okay.
hope. Yeah, yeah. Kelly, thank you very much for your time. It's been wonderful. And yeah, we'll post this interview up. We'll share all the links. And we look forward to the feature length film also.
Okay. Thank you so much, Fresh.
Cool. Thank you.
Bye.